Good evening, AGS crew. I have a bonus video for you guys this week. This one's going to be mostly for the nerds in the group who want to see how the playoff projections work. I'll walk you through that spreadsheet. But first, I wanted to start off with a couple of announcements. We do have the trade deadline coming up in a few weeks here. It is at the end of week 11, which is November 21st. All trades have to be accepted in Sleeper prior to the end of the 49ers Cardinals game Monday night of week 11. So make sure to keep that in mind. We haven't seen any trades yet this year, but hoping that we do get to see some. I also wanted to talk about a rule update related to trades. So I got some feedback in Sleeper after we passed this rule update earlier in the season that it wasn't quite worded the way that we wanted it to be. So I'm actually not going to put this one to a vote. I think it makes sense to push this one through. But if anybody wants to object to that, reach out to me over the next week or so. I won't make it official until next week, but we're gonna change this so that instead of all teams involved in a draft pick trade having to prepay their entry fee for that season, it's only going to be the teams who are trading away their draft pick. So you can see the current rule versus the updated rule. Pretty straightforward, but let me know if anybody objects to that. Alrighty, so we'll jump right into the playoff simulator machine here that I built. So this is a view that you guys have seen in prior week's videos. So this is showing the projected standings and your percentage chance at landing in one of those standings at the end of the season. So for example, I have a 37.6% chance at coming in third place at the end of the regular season. So how is this working? So I've mentioned before that I have simulations that I run. So I do have 10,000 simulations here. I'll just scroll through real quick. Scroll to the bottom. You can see there's 10,000 rows here. And I've taken record of what place each person is coming in for that simulation. And I'll show you how the simulations work in a second. But basically that is, I've run it 10,000 times. I save what place each person was in, and then I calculate the percentage of the time that you were in, let's say first place. It comes down here and it counts that for me. Okay, so how is this working? Well, off to the right here, it's going to get a little bit ugly for a second. But for each team, I've kept track of the points scored in each week. So this is just pulling through from the data so far, so through 6 weeks. These are just the actual scores that we had. And then I simulate what your scores might be in the remaining weeks of the season. So to do that, I look at the first 6 weeks and I fit a normal distribution to that. So I calculate the average and the standard deviation of the first 6 weeks. And then I plug that into a inverse normal function with a random number. So this is giving me a random sample from the normal distribution that I fit to the first 6 weeks of each team. So, for example, over here in week 9, let's see, this is for Taro. I use his first 6 weeks scoring, and I plug in a random number, and it says that he could score 112 in week 9. So, a couple of things to note here. It is based off of the average scoring that you've had to date. So as that changes throughout the season, your simulated future scores are going to go up or down. The standard deviation also matters. So if you're a team that's really consistent like Todd, who scores 120 pretty much every week, that's this row here, you can see his scores are all right around that 120 mark, is what it's simulating. This doesn't account for anything to do with bye weeks that haven't happened yet. So if you have a big bye week coming up, that's not going to get captured here, or injuries, or if you've had an injured player who's coming back, that's not going to be captured here. So there's a couple of things that it's not perfect with, but I think it does a pretty good job. And as we get more weeks of data, the forecast will be a little bit more accurate. So as we get closer to the end of the season, it'll project things a little bit more accurately. It also is, so once I project out your scores, it looks at your actual matchups that are coming up. So for example, if in week 8, let's say I was playing against Jeff. I don't know if that's actually true, but let's say in week 8, I was playing against Jeff. So I would score 145, Jeff would score 183, and it would say that Jeff would win in that matchup. It also compares against the median to figure out what your matchups, what your record would be against the median as well. And then it combines all that for all 13 weeks, your median record and your matchup record, and it calculates the standings. So I have a standings calculator down here. It's a little bit scrunched, but it's the same view that I'm showing on the to-date standings, but these are the projected standings for the rest of the year. Once I have these standings, I then copy down what place each person was in. So, for example, it looks up my team using the roster IDs, finds out that I was in 6th place, and captures that I was in 6th place in this simulation. So how do I run multiple simulations? I press the calculate button, and it recalculates all the random numbers that went into these forecasts. So the random number that's part of this formula here, it's going to recalculate that every single time I push the calculate button in Excel. So I can calculate it a bunch of times. So you can see that all of the projected scores are updating, the medians are updating, and the standings down here are updating with each one as well. So I can just push it a bunch of times. So in order to get the 10,000 iterations of this, the 10,000 simulations, I wrote a macro that just recalculates the spreadsheet over and over again, and then copies and pastes these standings back over to these rows here. And then again, that gets all rolled up into these percentages, and that's how the projections work. So that's going to do it for the bonus video. We have one more game tonight, and there's one matchup left that depends on it. It's Taro versus Dalton. Big game for both of them, trying to stay in the playoff hunt. Dalton trying not to be eliminated, basically. And it comes down to whether Mac Jones can put together a good game. So as a Pats fan, I'm rooting for Dalton. Sorry, Taro. So good luck, guys, and I will see you later in the week with the next video.